After landing a couple of big-time recruits and swiping one of BYU's most important assistants away, is it fair to say that the Runnin Utes are back? All this and more coming up at you on Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Locked On Utes. It's good to have you here. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. I want to thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen. Again, I appreciate you. It's been a couple days. Sorry, we've had some technical glitches. I'm getting used to this whole video thing. I shouldn't be on video. That's just the fact of the matter, okay? I'm much more pleasing in audio form, but for those of you who are listening and watching, I greatly appreciate you. My name's Austin Facer, host of the show. Smart aleck, kind of goofball, but a big sports fan, big sports understander, opinionated, enthusiastic, funny at times. Those are adjectives you could use to describe me, and appreciate you for giving me a little bit of your time today to talk some Utes. A lot going on this week. A lot happened for the University of Utah basketball team. The first thing I want to get into is the thing that I think caught the most attention on social media. Those of us who follow Ute Twitter, whatever they like to call itself. Whatever they like to call itself. That was horrible English. Whatever fans of Utah like to call themselves on Twitter. The Chris Burgess news was undoubtedly, I think, the biggest attention getter this week. If you're not familiar with Chris Burgess, let me just tell you why it was probably such a good fodder on social media. He's a former BYU assistant, now former BYU assistant. He's been on Mark Pope's staff since Pope stays at UVU, came over with Pope when he got the BYU job in 2019, is considered to be an excellent recruiter. So to pull off that kind of a coup, I guess you could say, to bring one of BYU's most important assistants and better recruiters into the fold up on the hill, that's a big get for Utah. And I think that's something a lot of people are excited about. The fact of the matter is, Utah basketball isn't that good. They've got a lot of work to do. Year one of the Craig Smith era was a little bumpy. They didn't play particularly well in conference play. I believe they went 11-20 overall, something like that. And what's going to really save that program is going to be getting better players on the floor. And it starts with recruiting. Recruiting is the lifeblood of any college athletic program. I think any coach or anyone who follows college athletics will tell you that to be the case. But anyway, let me just give you a little bit more about Chris Burgess. Although he comes to the U via BYU, which makes it all the more gratifying, he does have considerable Utah DNA. I don't mean just Beehive State DNA. I mean University of Utah DNA. Let me just give you a quick rundown on Chris Burgess' life, where he's been and what's gotten him to this point. He's from Orange County, California. He went to Mater Dei High School. I know Mater Dei very well. I went to Santa Ana, California, my mission. Mater Dei is right there in the heart of Santa Ana. It does not fit the neighborhood it sits in. Still, it's one of the best high school athletics programs in the state, probably in all of the country. It's a hotbed for a lot of good athletes. But he only went there for 1 year as a freshman, then transferred to Woodbridge in Irvine. From there, he had a college recruitment that caught some attention here in Utah. He's a member of the faith, member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So there was a point when his recruitment was between Duke and BYU, not unlike the Jabari Parker commitment or recruiting process, I should say. Burgess, like Parker, chose to go to Duke, and that was something that BYU coach, the coach of BYU, Roger Reed, did not respond very well to. He made a public statement and essentially said that Burgess had let down members of his faith. He had failed his religion. And that, in turn, was something that did not go very well with BYU administration. Reed was fired. It also didn't help that Reed wasn't coaching particularly well. I think BYU had a 1-6 record at that point. So anyway, he went to Duke, spent 2 years there, then transferred to Utah. Injuries kind of derailed his college career. He never really was able to get going the way that he was expected to or hoped to. He tore his plantar fasciitis, that's the arch in your foot, the muscle in the arch of your foot, on national television playing for Utah back in 2002. That essentially put the kibosh on his college career. He played summer league ball with the Phoenix Suns, Boston Celtics, and Washington Wizards. Never made it to the floor of an NBA regular season game. Had a pretty long career overseas, and then came back to the States and started on Mark Pope's staff at UVU in 2015. Followed Pope over to BYU. So again, that's a little bit about Burgess. Maybe that'll stimulate your memory if you're a longtime fan of Utah basketball. Again, this is a huge get for Utah. What Utah, I mean, you just watch the way Utah competed against other teams in the Pac-12, particularly the very good teams such as Arizona, the Oregons of the world, teams like that. The difference is clear. They just don't have the athleticism to compete. They don't have the athleticism to play the full 94 feet with these guys. I think getting a guy like Burgess who knows how to work the in-state recruiting, knows how to access the LDS pipeline. We've seen BYU have a lot of success with in-state recruiting. They do really well with guys from Lone Peak High School, guys in that area, guys in Mesa, Arizona area, Phoenix, Chandler, places like that. I think of guys like Connor Toulson, Jake Toulson, all the guys who have made UVU and then BYU the programs they've been the last few years. And I'm pretty positive Burgess is a big part of that equation. And this is something interesting that I think is maybe a little understated right now with all this news. I wonder if this might be kind of a big chess move, kind of a very strategic chess move by the whole athletic department at the University of Utah. When you consider the fact that Burgess's daughter, KJ, she just committed to Utah to play for Lynn Roberts on the women's basketball program. She was a great all-state athlete for Lone Peak. So that makes me wonder if maybe perhaps, this was all just a very well-coordinated effort between the men's basketball program and the women's basketball program. I think that would be kind of an interesting behind-the-scenes thing to investigate. I'm sure no one would say anything about it, but I think that's just kind of an interesting little tidbit. But again, this is something Utah fans should be really excited about. I think getting people on the coaching staff who understand the landscape that Utah has to compete with on the recruiting trails, I think that's going to be big. Utah has to get a lot better at getting the top in-state kids every year, or they should at least be in the conversation. I don't think that's necessarily been the case for quite a while up at Utah. So this is a big get for Utah. And as just continuing on that thought, recruiting is going to be really big for Utah. And they pulled in a couple of big catches yesterday. I'll tell you more about that. But first, let's just take a little break. I want to tell you about Puff Bars. Puff Bars, the Built Bars, but they make the ones called Puff Bars, the Puffs, right? These things are crazy. They're the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy. They're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite. They've got some incredible flavors. They've got a churro flavor, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. Are you kidding me? Banana cream pie. Those are probably going to be your new favorite. They're probably mine, I would say. Yeah, I would say banana cream pie is probably the one that gets my attention the most. And just so you know, these Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate, including these Puffs, okay? They've got other kinds of Built Bars. The Puff ones, I would say, are the marquee bar right now, covered in real chocolate, 100% real chocolate. How do they do it? I'll tell you how they do it, okay? At Built Bar, they're all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first, then they figure out how to make it healthy. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. They pull it off every single time. I want you to try some Built Bars. Go to Built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15. That's LOCKED15. I forgot how to spell for a second. and get 15% off your order. That's, again, use the promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. So back talking about recruiting for Utah, they had a couple of big signings on the same day that news broke that Burgess would be coming up from on I-15 from Provo to Salt Lake City. Two big signings for Utah. They've got a 3-star guard from Montreal named Wilguens Exacte Jr. I hope that's how you say his name. I'm pretty sure it is. Both these guys have interesting names. If I say them wrong, I hope they forgive me. I love them. They're going to be fun to cheer on. I just have no idea how to say your name properly. Please forgive me. He's from Montreal. He comes to us from the NBA Academy in Latin America. I don't know too much about that. I found out that that's where former Arizona State star and current Oklahoma City Thunder Lou Dort went there. So it tells you there's a little bit of a good pedigree there, kind of a good prep program, I would imagine. He was the big signing. He's one of the big signings. He's a 6'6", 220-pound athletic guard. He can play both positions, kind of a combo guard guy. Craig Smith, gave a quote, said he's forceful on both sides of the ball, and he's a very effective perimeter player, which is something that Utah's going to need. Hopefully he can complement their Cincinnati transfer, Sanders Jr., very well. So a couple of big backcourt signings for Utah, but that's not all. They got one more. They got a 4-star big man, Keba Keita, I think that's how you say it, from Wasatch Academy, rated as the number 4 recruit in all of Utah. Big get. They managed to persuade him to put on the old crimson there instead of the whatever shade of red they wear down there in UNLV. He chose Utah over the Runnin Rebels. He'll be a Runnin Ute instead. He's 6'9". He's 225 pounds. He is rated in the ESPN Top 100. So 2 really big gets. And what I really like about these 2 signings is it feels like there was a double-pronged creative strategy with getting both of these guys. And I think it's a strategy that Utah's going to have to master and get very, very good at. And I guess that's what mastering is. But it's something they're going to have to do to fill out their rosters from here on out. They're going to have to do really well in state, which they did with Keita, who, again, if I say that wrong, I'm sorry, the number 4 recruit in all of Utah. Powerful big man. I saw one Twitter user say he might be the one of the most dominant big men in all of high school basketball across the country. That's a big statement. I don't know enough about him to corroborate that, but a big get for Utah. So a good in-state recruit. And then they've got to be creative out of the state. They've got to look for the diamonds in the rough, so to speak. They've got to go to these places like Montreal or the NBA Academy Latin America. You know, they've got to find these little pockets, these little areas where there are good players, but they might not be in those natural hotbeds such as Los Angeles, New York, Miami, you know, all these very highly populated, very well-known high school basketball kind of elite areas. So that's what I really like about these signings. I think it shows that there's a strategy in place. It shows that they can get it done. They can close deals. They can get these athletes, you know, combining Exacte Jr. with Sanders Jr., who comes over from Cincinnati, I think is going to be really exciting. I think we might be looking at those 2 guys kind of leading the new backcourt for Utah, and I think that's something that'll be sorely needed. And then having a strong inside presence is also going to be big for the Utes as well. So a lot's happening for Utah. It's really easy to feel excited about this. You know, I think the program's headed in the right direction. I think it's safe to say this might be the biggest week, I guess, in the Craig Smith era so far. I think it's certainly I think there's the most optimism I've seen so far since he was hired. And again, it shows they recognize how important recruiting is going to be to really save this program and give them any chance of competing, because the way the cupboard was a little empty, so to speak, and I think they recognize that, and I think we're going to see some good stuff up at the U. So Anyway, so let's transition away from basketball. We're going to talk a little football. Utah's got some holes to fill in the football program, especially at wide receiver now that Britain Covey's out of the picture. But who are some of those names you should get to know? I'll tell you that right now. But first, let me just tell you again about BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. You'll find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's NBA playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season. Speaking of NBA playoffs, Jazz, Mavericks, it's on. I think I saw the Jazz are heavily favored to win that series. I'm not sure if I'm buying it quite yet. I got to read up on betonline.net, see what they're saying. I got to listen to David Locke on Locked On Jazz. I'll figure it out. I'll come to a consensus. Will I put money down? I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I think whatever happens, betonline.net is definitely going to be a big part of my decision-making process. I'll tell you what I really like about betonline.net. You can just put your email in this email field right on their homepage, and they will email you insights and analysis every day right to your inbox. Again, BetOnline, where the game starts. Let me tell you about one more company that I'm really excited about. Intercap Lending. Intercap Lending, okay? I'm getting older. I realize I'm in kind of a palatial estate right now. I know you're looking behind me. You're wondering, how does he do it? How does a guy who's almost 30 live in a place so exquisite, so luxurious? I don't know. I just do it. But I think I might want to find something else. And when I do so, I'm going to give Intercap Lending a call. There's a reason that no lender helps more families in Utah with their mortgage needs. Intercap gets deals done. It's a quick and simple process. Intercap closes loans 2 weeks faster than the industry average. And even though fast is great, the ultimate goal is to create a stress-free home loan process. That's something I would really appreciate. And that's what Locked On's personal loan offer, Steve Carter, has delivered to hundreds of Locked On listeners so far. He's done that for David Locke himself. And let's be honest, if David can be helped by Steve, if Steve can help David on track through the entire process, he can help just about anybody. And even though Intercap is new to Locked On Utes, it's not a new dealio at all. Intercap and Steve have been assisting customers with all their mortgage needs since 1978. That's 44 years of experience. And Carter's been helping Locked On listeners with the best experience since 2018. So go ahead and give Steve a call. He's headquartered here in Utah, but he's licensed to help with all of your mortgage needs in like 40 different states. Chances are, mathematically, there's a pretty good chance he could help you out no matter where you find yourself. Again, give him a call. His direct number is 385-800-8528. Again, that's 385-800-8528. You will not find a more responsive loan officer than Steve. His I hate letters, especially those two. Those are hard. LS number is 190465. For more information, give Steve a call or visit intercaplending.com. So again, like I was saying, Utah's got some holes to fill at wide receiver, particularly a 5'8" sized hole left by a guy you know as Britain Covey. Again, he's not with the program. That might be bizarre to think about, especially considering he's been with the Utes since the dawn of time. I'm pretty sure shortly after dinosaurs were eradicated from the earth, Britain Covey was a member of the Utes back then. So it's very weird to think that he's not with the program anymore. And to me, I think he's going to be missed for sure. I think he brought a certain electricity and a certain spark, whenever he got the ball. Obviously, he was a terrific punt and kick returner. He returned a punt against Oregon in the game at Rice Eccles Stadium last year, and then returned a kickoff for a touchdown in the Rose Bowl. A lot of exciting stuff Covey brought to the table. I thought he finished his career at Utah on a really high note. Obviously, he's off to the NFL draft. Now we'll see where he lands. But yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see who fills that gap. Ultimately, though, it's what you have to keep in mind is Utah's offense is going to be heavily predicated on their success rushing the ball. That's going to be their bread and butter. Next year is their bread and butter last year, to be frank. They were one of the nation's leading teams in rushing yards. I think they were like in the 10s or the teens. They were very high up there, averaged over 200 rushing yards a game. And they've got a great rushing committee coming back with Mika Bernard, Tavion Thomas, obviously being the two big names. In addition, I think obviously they're going to lean heavily on their tight ends as they have the last few seasons. I think this has kind of been a golden era for tight ends at Utah over the last few years. Dalton Kincaid, Brant Keithy are going to be the two names to watch for sure. The Utes lost Cole Fotheringham, who decided to give the NFL a shot. I think he has a real chance of going in the draft. So I think those two positions are obviously going to be the playmaking positions, going to be the workhorses, I guess you could call them, for the Ute offense. But, to make that work, to make the rushing attack work, you really do have to have a threat on the outside. You've got to be able to stretch the field and say, hey, if you cheat in on the rush, you're gonna pay for it. We're gonna throw it over the top. We've got guys with speed, with length, and you've got to respect it. And I think some of those guys that you can look to, and who I think will make a big impact. Let's just run through a list here. I think you're gonna see Jalen Dixon make a big impact. I think he's gonna take a very big role on the team. I think he might fill a lot of those gaps left by Britain Covey. I wouldn't be surprised to see him take over the punt returning and kick returning duties. He's one of the fastest guys on the team. He might be the fastest on the team. So I think you'll see him, pop off for big plays. I think Solomon Enos, we've heard his name before. He's scored more than a few touchdowns for the Utes. I talked the other day with Cindy Robinson on Locked On Pac-12 about Makai Cope. He's a speedster out of LA. He's 6'3", was a great player over there in Culver City. Only played in 2 games last year on special teams. I'm sure he'll take on a bigger role. And the other guy I really like, who coincidentally is 5'8", like Britain Covey, is a guy named Ryan Pepins, who was the Alabama Player of the Year, as named by Gatorade. He led his 7A team down there in Alabama to multiple state championships. It was a team MVP last year. So that was a big signing for Utah. So I feel like there's not any cause for concern, to tell you the truth. I think when you keep in mind, that Utah is pretty short up at a lot of positions. I think that was kind of what made last year so exciting going into the 2021 season, is that they were bringing back so much talent. They didn't lose anybody to the NFL draft. Everybody came back, was ready for a really special year. Ultimately, that was the case. And this year, it really doesn't feel like there's a drop-off at all, particularly on offense. Obviously, they're going to have to replace Nick Ford on the offensive line. Guys like Covey, a couple other key positions. Cole Fotheringham as well. But really, it feels like the next man up are going to be more than capable. And I think a lot of guys who are hungry to get a bigger slice of the pie, so to speak, are really going to do well. Another name you should think about is Devon Vele. He also, had some big moments last year. He's 6'5". That's pretty tall. So when you have like a good abundance of speed, of length, of ability, of all these kind of stuff, all this kinds of stuff, I think you can feel really confident about where the Utes will be at wide receiver. And hey, guy we didn't mention, Cam Rising. It's really big for, I think, the entire offensive unit that Rising's back, and having a more than competent quarterback, coming back into the to lead the offense isn't something that has always been a luxury Utah's enjoyed, and I think that's going to be huge for him for sure. So, anyway, thanks for listening, guys. We got the NFL draft creeping up. That's on April 28th. Why don't you go ahead and make Locked On NFL Draft your second listen now, okay? You made Locked On Utes your first. Why don't you go ahead and make Locked On NFL Draft your second, okay? I'll tell you why. Ryan Tracy and former NFL quarterback Eric Crocker bring the NFL Draft to life every day with insight, analysis on college football prospects and NFL front offices. Like Locked On Utes, this show is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you next time.